closed session, you talk about real estate matters. All it is you can't talk. Talk about real estate matters in closed session and attorney for approval. The next is a moment of silence, and two people of the families of Dee McMillan and John Mann. We keep them in our thoughts to have a moment of silence, if you will. Thank you. First item, we need to excuse Joe Bell.
I'll make a motion to excuse Joe Bell.
Motion to second on favor. Excuse. But he's got a good aim.
You got one.
That he's in. Okay, pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment.
It's 212 North Anderson Boulevard, Topsail Beach. The only thing I'm wanted to do, obviously, you all are going to touch on the tax situation, valuation that just happened. But the reason I'm up here is a lot of rumors are flying around about what Pender County did a day or two ago, about what Surf City did, I think, last night and today. With what's happened with the valuation. I was hoping that maybe somebody in here, could kind of explain to us what happened with them, also, if you know. I'm talking about both of their meetings. And you don't have to do it now. I'm just asking that sometime during the meeting.
I'll defer for the mayor's minutes. Let's wait if you have any comments.
Okay, thank you.
Susan Curry. As much as I hate to do this, and I really do, Susan Curry, 812 Ocean Boulevard. This is second meeting, bringing out the noise ordinance again. Don't see it on the agenda, really want to see it on the agenda before the season starts again. Second thing is parking. I'm still ticked off about parking on the south end, and with the tax valuations, it makes me even more ticked off about me having to pay parks on the end. So I'm bringing that up again.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Yeah. The mayor's minute, I think we have a lot of people here that are for a single item, but also the tax issue. I think a lot of that's controlled by the county at this point. But,
yeah, and I don't really know that I know much more than what all of you know, really, as far as the vote that was made during the Pender County Board meeting, County Commissioners meeting last night. A motion was made to suspend the revaluation, 2026 revaluation numbers, and do a little bit of research, if you will, to see if those numbers seem accurate. I think they were maybe questioning the increase amount that the third-party contractor, Vincent Valuations, came up with. And then that motion was made, it was seconded, and it was all in favor, unanimously agreed upon. I did speak with the county manager this morning briefly. As you can imagine, he's a little bit frantic right now. He was really trying to get a lot of calls to make to discern whether or not that was a legal action to take by the board or not. So honestly, truly right now, we are kind of just waiting to hear if this was a legal motion that could be made, and if in fact the tax valuations are suspended until next year. So then to
Okay, so there-
reevaluation.
Can I ask the question?
You sure
So,
can.
so what they're recommending is for this year to use the evaluation that we got now and wait till next year to use a new evaluation, whether it's the one that they came up with or whether they do it again. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think what it is they have, the motion was to use the 2025 tax valuations for this year and suspend the 2026 new evaluations, and research them. So in fact, when 26 comes around, it could be that they said, okay, we agree with these numbers and we see where they came from. They are right, and move forward with it. Or in fact, they could say, make some changes to that reevaluation, the 2026 reevaluation number.
But would that affect us for this tax year?
No, if it's determined that the motion that was made is a legal motion and will stand, then it appears that we will be using the 2025 tax value again this year.
Thank you.
That,
Will you be able to communicate to us? So right now, we have until May 15th to dispute the appraisal. If that motion stands, is that date going to be pushed out for us to still dispute?
that's a question for the county.
Can
That's
you
not
let
a
us-
question for me.
I know, but can you find a way to?
Communicate that when we know.
Okay.
We're gonna do our best to communicate all the information that we can.
When I was listening last night, I remember the commissioners telling people, go ahead and appeal. Even though the suspended, and put your appeal in. That's what I remember hearing.
Well, I'm just imagining, there's no way to get all the appeals done by May 15th. I mean,
They should have more appeals than properties.
I would assume, I mean, I have a 900% increase, so yeah, I would guess that 901, if I'm gonna be exact. Yeah.
You win.
So, yeah, so you think May 15th?
That's how I remember hearing it. Maybe it was before they made the motion, but
Okay.
I want to say, I heard them say, go ahead and get your appeals in because one motion might have considered.
I think anytime we get some information, we send it to Sunshine with, is what I posted on.
That'd be great. And I don't think I win, I think because I had 902.
I think a lot
So,
of.
yeah, I don't like being parking either.
Any other comments on that? Yeah. Let's move into the approval of the regular agenda.
Make motion, we accept the agenda as printed.
Have a
Second.
motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Conflict of interest, Alex, to start with you.
No.
Tom? No?
No.
Approval of the consent agenda.
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Public hearing, there is none. So item number 8, discuss, consider, and vote for partial road closure for M. Anderson Memorial Chapel.
Thank you, Mayor. So, the town did receive a, request in writing, to close a portion of Carolina Boulevard, that's right around the church. And so we have that, added that to the agenda, and Mr. Robert Jackson is here. He's gonna be speaking on and presenting the request. Come on up.
Good evening, I'm Robert Jackson at 640 Maritime Way, and I also serve on the board at M. Anderson Chapel. So I wanted to briefly explain our request to the town, and eventually that would translate to the Department of Transportation as well, which I can get into more detail on that. But I wanted to start out by saying how important the town is, the businesses, the community to our chapel. And our chapel is so unique. I don't know of another one like it whereby it's non-denominational. The pastors that come each Sunday, 50 of them, 2 weeks that we don't have visiting guest pastors from all around the country. So, and our membership is called an affiliate, and our bylaws say that you're an affiliate when you come and worship with us one time. So It is truly a community church, in my view, and this is a community request, but it is specific to the chapel, since the North Carolina law and DOT regulations require that you own both sides of the road in order to request a road abandonment. So in this particular case, and if, you may want to put the slide up, please. Emma Anderson Chapel owns what I would call the east and west side of this corridor, with the sanctuaries there, the L-shaped sanctuary on South Anderson, and then of course the fellowship hall. There are 3 50-foot wide lots there as well at the chapel. And so the section of road in yellow that you're looking at is in essence 150 linear feet bordered on both sides by the chapel. So the backstory to our request really is safety oriented. As the chapel has grown in our community, we found that we have so many events, both in season and out of season. I'll give you an example. Just this past Sunday, the Easter Sunday service, sunrise, we had 840 people. We hosted a coffee and donut event there between the chapel and the youth cottage. But of course, there's if you attended, there's parking for a half a mile in every direction, more or less. But what we found between services like that, weddings, columbarium events, we have a new columbarium on the east side, or the west side rather, of the sanctuary. We also have baptism events. The youth in the summer meet twice a day, the young youth in the morning and the older teenagers in the afternoon. And all these events are centered around this campus. And I think when Mr. Anderson developed the initial block with the sanctuary, I don't think anybody could envision this kind of use and community events. And what we found, if you don't mind putting up the GIS picture as well, what we have found is that there's so much traffic, and I'm assuming that's a Sunday, it could be a special event. It's an aerial on GIS, so I'm not responsible for taking it. But what we found on Sundays and during other special events, that people going from the sanctuary back to the fellowship hall, which is to the west there, which is where we hold arts and crafts, Sunday schools, events, meals and whatnot, are having to walk in between parked cars on both sides of Carolina Boulevard. Carolina Boulevard, I measured it this afternoon to make sure I was right. It's supposed to be 18 feet wide. I'm gonna call it 17 and a half from edge to edge of the asphalt. You can't get a DOT road approved in today's regulations that's 17 and a half feet wide. They won't take maintenance of it. Now, of course, this is grandfathered in. Here on Anderson, we're about 22 feet, and that extra footage makes a big difference because somebody that's crossing the road has a little bit of a cushion before the car comes. And what we've found is kids running and adults that are traversing back and forth between the cars. It's an extremely dangerous situation. So that is the primary purpose of our petition. In addition to that, DOTs also will look at the request. But I've talked to DOT, both the district engineer and some of the other staff there, and they've reviewed it and did an initial review. And they were positive because there's so many other points of ingress and egress around the chapel, down Scott, down a channel, up Carolina Boulevard. And we did put up a camera to look at the traffic. And most of the traffic is heading north. Most of the traffic is church traffic, but the little bit that, and we did have a fair amount of town traffic, like the water truck, trash truck, and that kind of thing. But most of the traffic that we could not identify as church related or staff cars and that kind of thing were traveling north, around Scott, north on Carolina Boulevard, but very little traffic besides, church events and the events I've described. So in addition to being a safety matter, we also feel like just the traffic analysis, which would bear out that there's plenty of other pathways for the general public to travel and not be inconvenienced at all. Of course, Anderson being the primary one, but also coming around Scott and so on. So we're not landlocking anybody, of course, in that regard. So the church also reached out preemptively for the folks from Hines street all the way down to the chapel, which we numbered as 40 residences, and we weren't, property owners. And there are many, well, not many, there's several we couldn't get up with. We just didn't have phone numbers, and we did send out letters. So hopefully everyone received those. So far, we haven't had any, I'm going to vote against it. I don't like it or whatnot. We have 23 out of 40 that said they would sign in favor of it. So, that's a good indication. I haven't had anybody call and say, you know, or anything. I wasn't the only person. We had 6 or 8, 10 people call. So, but I haven't had anybody say this is going to inconvenience me or that whatnot. But I think there may be probably some property owners here today that would like to speak on this. But I think those are the primary takeaways for us, is that there's a provision in the regulatory guidance for DOT to allow for this. They currently have the state maintenance of this 150 feet. They will abandon it with the town's vote, along with the applicant owning both sides of the road, and push forward to Raleigh DOT board, which would be the final arbiter of this. But the provision is in place for it, and we feel like the safety parameters warrant this, that the benefit of having this extra 150 foot of roadway, in our view, does not outweigh the risk of having it with the safety issues we're dealing with children and adults. So I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Robert, you mentioned a positive response from DOT related to ingress and egress.
Yes.
Could you expand on that, please?
Okay, so the town, as I understand it, what I call King Street, I think that's the street that's named in the GIS, which is which I have a little red thing pointing at it. There we go, where the mouse is.
Yeah.
That's King Street. So if you're coming down Carolina Boulevard, assuming this section would be closed, of course, you could take a right if you're coming south, which very few traffic came south. But if you were coming south, you could take a right, as those 2 cars are, I'm assuming in the photograph, and bend around to Channel. In addition to that, as you go north, you would just take a right on Scott and go out to Anderson. So traffic that's traveling north or south has a workaround. So the DOT's comment was the town maintains and owns King Street, is what the DOT told me, that that's a town street. And for that reason, and that there are other methods of ingress and egress, they didn't see a problem that the board in Raleigh would have about abandoning the maintenance on the 150 foot stretch.
Well, it's hard to call that a regular street. That's basically 1 lane wide. And so it's hard to associate, hey, I can turn right and go, when there's someone coming from the other direction, one of you's got to back up or something like that. So
I didn't measure that, John, but I'm on Maritime Way. I would basically call Maritime Way a 1-way street also, not the Bridgers portion, but the portion in between. Very narrow, and if there's a nice size pickup truck or any kind of commercial vehicle, you're on the grass as well there. So I know it's not ideal, but and I think quite honestly, the width of Carolina Boulevard is not ideal for any stretch of it. But it's kind of the hand we've been dealt, if you will.
no, it's not. Carolina Boulevard to the north there is pretty wide for 2 people.
It is 17.5 to 18 feet wide, but now 20 is the minimum for normal DOT maintained roads for safety reasons. But
So is DOT saying they're in favor of this at this point?
well, the folks I've talked to are the district folks, and they don't have a vote. So what would happen would be that if the petition passed the town, and we're the applicant, but the town first has to agree that, vote on the petition. If it makes it through that stage, they send it to the local district engineer and the right-of-way people. They package it up, they send it to Raleigh, and the DOT board, which meets once a month of the whole state, would then vote on it. And I haven't talked to anybody on the DOT board, but I've talked to the people that present to the DOT board, and they say it meets all the criteria.
You're talking about a petition. Now, I've got the written document that you brought in last week to us, but there's no signatures on what I received.
Yeah, I can leave the
23 out of 40. So is that the petition you're talking about?
It is, yes, sir, and I can leave a copy of it with the town with the signatures on it. There's some people that verbally said, yes, I'll sign it and send it in. And we've indicated that. There's some people that actually signed it. We had 23 out of 40.
Did DOT talk to you about need for a public hearing on this?
There, the DOT, again, I don't know, I'm not obviously an attorney, but the DOT told me that the requirement would be that the town supports the abandonment. They did not say that a public hearing would be required.
That is correct. I did talk with,
Is not a public hearing required to, close the road?
A public hearing is required for the town to close a town street. Can't speak to what procedures are required for DOT to close a state street. And what's unusual for you is that this is in fact a state street.
Okay, so we don't know whether or not a public hearing is required here or not.
we do actually, I was able to speak with our contact at DOT in regards to this because I was unsure of the process myself. And the process does not require a public hearing, a formal public hearing through DOT's process. That would be something that the town, if the town would like to do, we are not legally required. Certainly, if it's something that we would entertain, public hearing would probably be recommended. Just not a legal requirement.
That's good enough.
And John, I meant to say too, I apologize, I didn't bring this up. I think there might be a slide in there with a photograph of the barrier between the sanctuary and the youth cottage that would, maybe, I don't know, there we go. The one on the bottom there, yes. So that's the section, that was the town street. And I'm sure you did have a public hearing for that. It sounds like that was closed 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know the exact date, but, or abandoned or what have you. That little wooden fence section, I call it, the two by sixes, that's the extent of what we would like to do on Carolina Boulevard. So the misnomer of it being closed, what it really is the state is no longer in charge of the maintenance of that section of street. That's what they're abandoning, their responsibility to maintain it. We people every day drive around this, bike, golf carts, the whole 9 yards. So it's not like we've walled it off and people, emergency vehicles, what have you. And of course, the folks that are attending these events I mentioned will be parking behind that wooden fence section.
Would
So
the church then maintain that section of road?
yes, ma'am, it would be the church's responsibility to maintain, as we do, the section that's currently abandoned as well.
But you would still propose to have those barricades up. Like
We proposed the exact, I think it was 6 feet wide, I think it was 6 or 7 feet wide. I don't know, 36 inches tall. This one.
And what would be your reaction if you found non-church members driving around those barricades?
Well, of course, I'd invite him to church. Hey, the men's Bible study. No, we're not trespassing anybody. And we've got 5 or 6 people last night on the basketball court. You know, we were open for business for the community. So this isn't a trespassing issue. We don't have, to my knowledge, any safety issues with crime or anything like that. We're just trying to keep the folks that are basically going on our campus back and forth between the sanctuary, the youth cottage, and the fellowship hall safe. And you've got a narrow road, and it is wider than Penny Street, I'll give you that, but it's a narrow road. And a lot of people, some local people, but a lot of people from out of town, they rush through there. And they're not slowing down because there's a bunch of cars parked in there. They're heading on out. And it can be dangerous. And with a lot of SUVs now, I did this past Sunday, I went by there and just walked around. If you got one big Suburban here and one big Suburban here, of course, the car coming can't see the person, but the person walking out can't see the car until they get out there. So one step more and it's not a pretty situation. So
And that's not about barricading and only during services.
no, sir, we would leave it up as we do now. We always, on the other section of road, we leave that wooden, called a sawhorse or fence up all the time. So that way, what we hope what would happen would be people would use Anderson or, you know, primarily Anderson, honestly. It's 20, 30, 24 feet wide. to transverse north and south. And of course, by the looks of the street cameras we put up, 98% of the people do that anyway. But it only takes, it's kind of like what they talk about terrorism. It only takes one thing to break through to have a problem. And that's how we feel about the kids and the adults there, that just one mishap like that is one too many.
I appreciate your comment about big SUVs and big trucks, because as you know, I park there every week and I have to back out around all the big trucks that those guys drive. And
Yes.
so it is clearly a problem, there. with the parking. But I have to tell you, Robert, that, I felt like this request was really too broad for, the safety issues, which are on Sunday mornings and occasionally during the week, and they're seasonal for the most part. So I think this is a real stretch to ask close close it permanently. I believe we can find a way to handle this locally, maybe work with the DOT to say, yeah, it's okay for the church to put some barricades up on Sunday mornings and maybe even during the week when we know there's going to be kids there. And otherwise, leave it open. I suggest working with the DOT and town and the police. So I think you find a lot of cooperation there to move forward with something other than what your proposal is, because this is really a pretty drastic proposal, even to close one block of a street that is used. I mean, you described that there's not a lot of traffic on there, but it is used. I probably drive it at least every week, other than going to Friday mornings.
Right.
You know, I use that route. And I think you can find a way to do the safety, otherwise.
I'd say one thing I'd say, and that the backdrop of this a little bit. I don't know if we can pull up that slide. If you mind pulling up that area a little more time. And part of my business is I build roads, most for neighborhood roads, which is like this road, a secondary road. I don't build highways or something like Anderson or whatnot. But neighborhood roads, generally the developer builds those and then you dedicate those to the DOT. So you're building the roads under DOT standards. And there's an engineer that certifies and inspects them and all this kind of thing. My experience with DOT has been in every neighborhood I'm in, is even if the neighbors request a lower speed limit or a speed bump for safety reasons, the answer is an emphatic no. If you're the governor, you're not getting that, because it doesn't meet the DOT regulatory requirements, and they have to deal with, besides Texas, there is no state, this is what DOT tells me, in the country that has more miles of roadway that the state maintains than the state of Texas. Everything they do has to be uniform across the state. And when you start doing one-offs, let's call it a barricade, a speed bump, a speed limit situation, they can't manage it. The staff can. And then they have liability also. If, for instance, they were to agree to that and the barrier got moved, somebody got hit, we'd have a problem. So I do agree that there may be other methods, but my guess would be if we petition DOT for situations like that, as long as it's under their state maintenance program, that I think would be a high bar to cross for them to agree. But I was just going to say, here is just a further example, I think, of the 150-foot section. As you travel past south, I don't know if you can kind of drag this picture south a little bit. We'll notice that Carolina Boulevard isn't built. So there's thousands of feet of Carolina Boulevard that's on the state plat that's not even maintained, doesn't have asphalt, just has trees. So I'm just playing devil's advocate. If that were there, would that change the scope of the next 150 feet? I know it's there, but
You just opened the door to one other question.
do you want the church to pave the rest of Carolina Boulevard?
No. But there is a house down there, as you know. Josh Coggins' house is down that section of Carolina, which is unpaved. But I would guess that Josh uses this section that we're talking about. But it really raises the question of, did you go to all of the people when we got your petition that you described. There was nobody other than the 1,000 blocks of Carolina that you talked to or petitioned. And in fact, there is, I guess it's Channel Boulevard, in the 1100 block, there's, there's a dozen more houses. That people probably use this as an egress. So it kind of raises the question if we got the right public input.
Right.
And as we described next, though, we really were not giving the public notice about this. We only brought this to us last week.
Right.
And so the public hasn't had a chance to hear about it except from church members who are proposed.
Right. No, I understand that. What I was told was we did this voluntarily. We weren't asked to notice anybody. We figured the town would do whatever their mandate was for the notice, but we didn't want to catch a neighbor by surprise, at least in the immediate block. Maybe didn't notice the whole town. We're not adverse to doing that, but we didn't intentionally just cherry pick. But we thought the people that would most likely use the road would be that block.
And I agree, you talk to a lot of people who would use it, but I would be very hesitant to go forward without at least having an announced public hearing. Where the residents anywhere in town have an opportunity to learn about this, see your diagrams, and come in here and tell us what they think. So my suggestion would be, really my suggestion is figure out, working with the town and DOT, is there a way we can arrange for church members to put out barricades as needed? If you want to pursue having a road closed, I would suggest that we can't go any further without having an announced public hearing.
Understood.
But those are my thoughts. Other people up here.
Yeah, couple of things. Couple of things on the barricades and all. Emergency vehicles will be able to get around. Geez. Is the barricade situation down at the church, would that present a problem if you fighting the fire church or the fellowship?
I don't, as long as they're not over that 6 foot, I was in the impression they were gonna close the whole thing. And it would have us trying to get in between those two structures. But if it's a 6 foot, we still got 8, 10 foot on either side. We can go around it. It won't, as far as us getting into it. And the hydrants on the other end and us having to come back around to it, it would not present a problem for us on that part of it. The worst part was gonna be is gonna be going down the other way. If there's a truck or something parked on the side of the road, it's gonna be something to get a truck around that curve or even get through that way to that houses back up on the backside. Cause especially if you start getting 2 lanes going, you're gonna have a problem there.
Next question for Sam. Would there be a problem for the police department to barricade that road on certain occasions or what?
Or allow the church.
Or allow the church to, I mean.
How many occasions?
Can I say something? DOT won't allow us to block that road when we want to. It's DOT, we tried that 4 or 5 years ago. They said we couldn't. Also, we have a summer program. The kids are there all summer long. So we would block it off the whole summer if we could. So just keep that in mind that we can't, DOT won't allow us to temporarily block the road. And we do have people there all summer long.
Another option, something we haven't discussed or anything, just throwing it out there. The town could actually petition DOT to take over that road. And then we would have the operation of having the police to be able to help with barricade or even the church, into a different agreement. That's something we haven't discussed and something on the table.
Then would we have to assume the cost of maintaining it?
Either that or agreement with the members or end of the understanding with the church that they do the maintenance.
Yeah, we're open to, we're,
If you did that, I would recommend it would be a document more formality. Be an actual, he's on great, that sort of thing. Define certain things, that would be, that would run with land.
would that be appealing to the? I'm just one person on the board, but if you put me on the spot, I would say our objective is, as I've stated, is that we have a safe ingress and egress around our campus, and we definitely do not have one now. And so I think, anything we can do, but I agree with David that pretty much anything you want to do is gonna mandate the need for DOT to give up their maintenance or abandon, what they call abandoned. They're abandoning their maintenance, they're not tearing up the road. So they're abandoning their legal responsibility to maintain it.
And
I think
they'd love to do that.
And they would love to do that. They get any chance they get, they can get rid of a road. So, but again, this wouldn't even be on the table for discussion in Raleigh at the DOT board if it didn't meet their criteria. I mean, I guess you could send anything up there and pray, but what I'm telling you is that if you don't own both sides, and if you have a dead end situation where somebody's got to do a 4-point turn to get out and this kind of thing, that's a non-starter. They're not going to agree to it, no matter what we want to do. But in this particular case, they will agree. I've been told, and as I understand the traffic engineering, they would agree to it at the board with the towns.
Sounds like it may be the appropriate time for a motion to start the public hearing process, so that we're not kicking the can down the road and we're getting the notice out to the public, at least on our end, to see where everything lies.
Before we go into that, any public comment? I think that's.
So when you're suggesting maybe let DOT, let the town take it over, are you suggesting and then give it to the church, or then have responsibility for coordinating times it's blockaded off?
We would probably, that's something we need to work out. It could be as easy as a meeting to try and keep the ownership of the public access. The easement's granted, the idea that the church would maintain it and would give them the permission to block it off with however they need to do it, as long as they didn't impact or impede emergency traffic.
So they could block it off all the time?
They're sure you can have it that way, or it's blocked only in certain times of the year, or.
But what's the difference in it being blocked all the time and going through and getting DOT, I guess, long-term ownership?
Well, once we got it under ownership, we can give it to the church as well.
We'd like to have it blocked all summer long
Also,
because of the youth program we have.
Rowan County 1038 channel, so I'm right in that corner.
yeah, they come up to the mic from Will.
Rowan Kennedy, 1038 channel, which is right in that corner, right on King Street and Channel.
Okay.
We just found out about this, Sunday, we're called yesterday, really appreciate it. Conceptually, we want to make sure it's a safe environment for the community. I think our just concern is making sure we have the accurate traffic data, because, the traffic up Carolina isn't really going to change, but going around Channel and King would. And as Commissioner Gunter mentioned, it is pretty tight on that road. So just making sure, especially in season, we understand sort of what kind of traffic flow goes through there so we can make appropriate informed decisions.
Okay, thank you. I get another question about naming of King. Is there a way to pave on the church side of King to widen that road a little bit?
Could be, I hadn't thought of it, frankly, I'm sure.
I'm just thinking about safety and the residents there having safe travel around. I'm looking for a way.
Maybe find somebody that knows how to do a residential street like that.
The church do under financing on it.
I'll do it. Any other?
We're not hard and fast in
Yes.
what we're requesting, but what I've been told by the state is step one is DOT more or less has to take a step out. They have to abandon their maintenance of it. And then after that, the town owns it, we own it. There's different rules and regulations and whatnot. That, I'm assuming that could all be hammered out. But as long as it's a state maintained road, there's the likelihood of doing anything but what we've got is probably slim to none.
Oh, yes.
And I'd have to say I am very much a fan of Emma Anderson, regular attender. I've been since I was a child. My kids were baptized there. You've got all these lists of people impacted. My feeling would be if any one of them had a viable opposition to this, I wouldn't be willing to support it because this impacts this whole community who is accustomed to a traffic pattern, and their needs have to be considered as well as the churches.
So I agree, and I totally respect that opinion. I know just in general in community development, as communities grow and shrink, and of course, as we get bypasses through farms and we get condemnation and whatnot, there's always changes that the community has to take based on the current circumstances. So, and that is really what precipitated this need, is that maybe 15 or 20 years ago, it wasn't as, I mean, our membership was growing. We got the youth program that's always growing. And in the summertime, kids want to be outside and so on and so forth. So I do feel like changes in the community warrant traffic changes, whether it's a widening, a condemnation, a bypass, whatever it may be. And that affects more than one homeowner across the country in many ways. But as I said, conclusion, the risks associated with versus the benefits of, I think safety wise, it's almost like a school zone. Somebody said, you're inconvenienced me because this new elementary school's here and you close down this road and that road. And most people would probably say, well, the kids are too important. Well, I'm sorry you've been inconvenienced, but the safety of our kids at the elementary school outweighs that inconvenience. And again, I haven't talked to somebody that's inconvenienced, but if I did, I would petition them to say, we don't want to inconvenience you, but we also have to, as a church or as a town, we have to weigh. I mean, I be honest, I'm sure Sam would agree. On Saturday night, when I go to the beach shop or come over here to Coors or wherever it may be, and I'm riding a bike or walking, I'm really just keeping an eye on things. I'm nervous here with the traffic flow and the 50, 25 even in that situation. And then that may warrant the town's I don't know what they would do, but I'm just saying that may warrant a change with the town. It may inconvenience me, but I'd be in favor of it for safety. So that would be my only comment. But I know if we have the entire town, there will be one person in this town, I know, if not more, that would say they'd be inconvenienced in some way. I mean, I haven't heard from them yet, but I know that there will be.
I think a public hearing would be appropriate to garner the information from the general public and see what's going on. Have a motion to set a public hearing.
Second.
You gotta make a motion. Does that make a motion to set up a public hearing?
You got a second? I have a motion second to set a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we need to know when public hearing. Christine, you think 1 month is give you adequate time, or we'll make it two?
We can do that, you're talking about at the next board meeting? Or do you want to have a separate meeting, public hearing?
You deserve the next board meeting because you can.
We got a lot of budget stuff, yeah.
So that's likely to be a longer meeting.
So you want to do 2 months or call a special hearing?
That's a question for you guys, yeah. Do you want to do it at a regular board meeting or do you want to call a special?
I would do a special meeting just because we're in the middle of budget season and
But it would be late May probably.
As members of the board, I would also recommend out of abundance of precaution that in addition to the standard notice that is given for a public hearing, that written notice be mailed to the owners of properties on Carolina Boulevard. Could we include Channel Boulevard in the 1100 block? You can if that's your desire.
Could you email, or does it have to be?
I recommend that it be written with notice and put on the sunshine.
Okay, Christina, back to you on the schedule.
I mean, I think really right now, because we have such a full schedule, that maybe it's best we can come up with a date after, I don't know that we can set it right now. Come up with a date and then send that out to the public, and then we can all agree on the date that, the time that works. And then send that out to the public and communicate that back. I'm afraid tonight, you know, with everybody's schedule, it's a little bit difficult to take a date.
So general-
If that's okay with you guys.
so we would set the public hearing and get notice. Okay, I mean,
And I'll look for a date, do you want to do it in the month of April or in the month of May?
See what you can do. How about that?
Okay. So within maybe 30 days-ish. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do that.
Appreciate it.
yeah,
Thank-
good.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rob.
Thank you.
State Parks and Recreation Board.
Good evening, I'm Cindy Averett, and I'm here in the Parks and Recreation Board. One of the things that we have struggled with as a board is how to communicate events that are happening in our town and area and in the park. And one of the ways we've tried to communicate within the past year is the creation of our banners that we put at 1A here at Town Center and at the end of Sound. And one of the ceremonies that I have found very meaningful, I didn't know it occurred until I was on the board, is the replay that we do on Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And so we have a new banner that we're going to put up at the park to help people know. Now, even with the banners, we realize that people still don't tend to know all that we do and have available for folks here. But we will continue to work on it. But I'm very proud. I thank Rochelle for her creativity in coming up with our replaying ceremony banner that we'll put up soon. Second, I just wanted to thank you all and to say the board appreciates you entertaining our request, our capital improvement request to replace our existing playground equipment that is in need of repair and replacement. And when we made that request, we told you that we would continue to work from our end on trying to set up a way for people to help contribute to not only this cause, but other causes. And so in doing that and calling people's attention to it, we thought, well, we need to create an image for our Parks and Recreation program in a way to convey simple messages. So we have also, the next slide will show you that we have come up with a logo for the Topsail Beach Parks and Recreation Department. And we've come up with a tagline that we will always use, which is, if Topsail Beach holds a special place in your heart. And then we would have what we call a slogan that is specific. Now, right now, we don't have a specific slogan because we don't have a specific capital project that we're ready to go with. So sort of a generic one is just give back to the place that gives so much. And this is something that we would plan to use on our website, our town Parks and Recreation website, our sandwich boards that we'll have at the concert series, things we hand out, just a way to try to generate more knowledge in the community about what's going on with the Parks and Recreation. There are two other areas that we discussed at our last meeting that I wanted to just bring to your quick attention. One is that when we first started as a board, when we were first created, one of the first issues that came to us was the desire from some of the town's folks to have a third pickleball court. And we looked into it at depth, and there were just concerns we had. There were some obstacles, and so we never brought that forth as a recommendation to you. Our last meeting during public comment time, some residents came back again, and they heeded all of our concerns, and they actually came with what they feel is a proposed solution. So the board is the staff is gonna look through it. We're gonna look at that again, and we may or may not come back to you on that, but just wanted to let you know. And lastly, what we're working on is that in our master plan, one of the things that people repeatedly said they would like to see is some recreational programming, some classes. maybe it's yoga, maybe it's line dancing, maybe it's fishing, maybe it's pickleball, maybe it's aerobics. But of course, it would have to be minimal or no cost. It would have to require 0 staff. We don't have a Parks and Recreation staff, and we're not recommending we start one. And it would have to be something very easy to administer. But the board has voted at the last meeting to just start looking into this. We've looked at 2 models that small towns use. One is a contract model, another is a permit model. The permit model seems to be the easiest. That's about all I want to tell you tonight. But we are looking at ways to maybe provide some recreational programming through a way that would be minimal or no cost. 0 staff time. I just want to repeat that. 0 staff and very easy to administer. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's what's going on with your Parks and Rec board.
Question?
Okay, thank you.
I know we got the playground report, and
Yes, sir.
I think we do need to get to work on that. Thank you. Update planning board.
I don't have my post-it tonight, so it's gonna be a little bit longer. You guys got the reports, I'm not gonna read the entire thing. Planning board did meet for their normal meeting, for March. We approved the site plan for the public safety building. And I have been in conversation with Becker Morgan and Thomas Construction today about getting the permits to begin the grading process of the land, so we can start getting ready once we get everything else in line. The main thing from the meeting is that the planning board would like some direction, and further discussion on section 16-53A10, which Wes, put the memo in for you guys regarding that. It's in the planning board duties and, public buildings and roads and things like that. Wes suggested that that be removed back in 2017, 2018 because of the conflict that we ran into last month, because that was something that no one really thought about. And then we kind of had to throw it in, and the planning board was very confused because they haven't been involved in the entire process. So we need to clear that up for them so that they know, like, whether we remove this or we give better direction for staff to know if and when this ever comes about, maybe 10, 15, 50 years from now. But so that they won't face that of having to kind of stumble backwards and figure out how to deal with both items at the same time so that we're not slowing progress on the building.
The West recommended removing it. I'm guessing.
He recommended removing it several years ago, and they decided to keep it in there. And then because we knew there would be a conflict, and now we've run into the conflict. So.
And would you briefly explain for everybody sitting out there what that is?
I actually will read it to you. It says, do what? It's not that much. To review with the town manager and other town officials and report as recommendations to the Board of Commissioners upon the extent, location, and design of all public structures and facilities, on the acquisition and disposal of public properties, and on the establishment of building lines, mapped street lines, and proposals to change existing street lines.
Is the problem that they read into that they were going to be part of designing the building itself?
That is part of the issue because there was not clarification there, but also, so the planning board is the final decision for a site plan. So they would have been the stopping point had we gotten to, just introduce the site plan, and they would have made the decision and we would have been done.
And that would be whether or not they meet the zoning ordinance.
That's correct. Whether it meets all of the standards of the
Like
ordinance.
interior arrangement
None of
of
that.
rooms and stuff like that.
But kind of the ship itself, when it got to them,
Correct.
we're picking interior colors and they're asked to approve the site plan.
Correct.
But they did agree to all the zoning ordinances and setbacks and stuff like that.
Yes.
Right.
So if you read this, any disposal of a public property would require their sign off.
at least a recommendation, to the commissioners. Not an action item for the commissioners, but just a recommendation.
Many of these things are included in our normal review, in which the state has indicated now that if someone meets the regulations, it must be approved.
That's with a site plan, with plot plans, things like that. If they come, of course, plot plans generally are mine. If it meets all regulations, they have to be approved.
I'd say if Wes recommended removing it, remove it.
Yeah.
But I also think it would be good to look and see what is it that the planning board does. And we've had, ever since I started coming to meetings, complaints that they really don't have a well-defined role. And I'm guessing someone mentioned to me they couldn't bring ideas to the board. They can only react to things that the board takes to them.
They can bring ideas. I mean, even, Randy has sent me emails for things, he wanted me to contact Mayor Blanchard about something that he mentioned in a BIS meeting for one of our meetings. So they are more than welcome to send in anything that they would like to discuss, and it can be placed on the agenda for discussion. I mean, I'm always there as well for answers to questions and things like that. I'll say always there. But,
I guess my concern is we've got so many talented people when they serve on a committee, and then it's not meaningful, or the committee never meets. And it discourages them from being involved. So I think anything we could do to make involvement in committees, like Cindy, I would say you jumped in with both hands, and it's meaningful and it's made a difference, that I think it would behoove us to look for ways. This needs to come out, but we may be able to clarify other things that make being a member of the planning board feel worthwhile.
So we have already had discussions with Wes about doing another training where those questions would be relevant to ask. I don't know that will be at the May meeting or the April meeting, but it would definitely be at May if it's not April.
It's the pleasure of the board.
I would make a motion that we remove this provision as recommended by Wes. Remove from the Land Development Code, section 16.53A 10.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And I listened to that planning board meeting
I did
and,
too.
it wasn't painful. But
That was painful.
All right, thank you. Because the uncertainty caused by the way this was written.
Yes, and we need clarity. So we're bringing Wes back in so that we can discuss some of those issues.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
I'm sorry, can I just ask a clarifying question? Apologies. Does this have to come through as a text amendment in chapter 16? And if so, does it need to go to the planning board and then come back to this board for a public hearing? Or maybe we.
So I'm going to take this back to the planning board with the recommendation of the commissioners.
Okay,
And then it will go through the normal process.
perfect. I just wanted to make sure that you understood at the commissioner level that this would have to actually go back to planning board and come back to you with a recommendation and a text amendment.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Update PIF.
Please. Right. First of all, Cindy coming hard out to follow. With our own logo and our own banner, make it exciting again. So good job. Yeah. Hey, look, the last BIS meeting was on March the 19th, and the next one is tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. So that's when our next meeting is. At our last meeting, we had 9.3 million in the fund. We're making progress toward the 12 million that we need when we do our maintenance project between 27 and 28. The reason why we need 12 million is our part will be 6 million. And if we had an event right after that, we would have to have something to cash flow the subsequent jobs. So those are the reasons for that. TI Coastal is currently in the process of applying for long-term permits so that we don't have to get the permit right when the project starts. And that's because we got a successful, we got our 30-year beach management plan approved by the Coastal Resources Commission. And then the TI Coastal is going to do the quarterly sound survey coming up in a couple of weeks. The most recent one for the first quarter is posted on our website. They're also initiating a bird survey that they do every year. The bird survey for last year was posted on the BIS website. So if you want to go on there and see that, we do a bird survey, and they also do a vegetation survey to keep us environmentally compliant when we have to get those permits. So they're actively involved in that. The BIS has a subcommittee called the Water Management Task Team. And the goal for that committee is to look at primarily tidal flooding, but also some rainwater flooding. We have been meeting as a team. Our last meeting was just before our last BIS meeting, and our next meeting will be next Tuesday at 10 a.m. But at our last meeting, reviewed the activities of that team. Our BIS team reviewed the activities of that team, and we had taken a tour in January to look at all of the outfalls. Tom and his team greatly assisted us by taking us around and showing us all the outfalls. We wanted to identify the outfalls so we could identify the ones that were backing up during tidal flooding and begin to look at some possible solutions for those. Tom's team has also gone back and camera scoped all of the outfalls. He hadn't had a chance to update us on that because we were so busy in our last meeting, we didn't get to that, but we're going to take a look at the condition inside of those culverts that go out to the sound. One of those culverts that goes out to the sound has something called a duckbill, and it's like heavy PVC that's curled at the end. And when the tide comes up, that curl will peel back and stop the water from coming in, called the duckbill. But when the tide goes down, it curls back out and lets the water out. So part of what we did was we reviewed the outfalls and talked about a potential solution. And the BIS team voted to recommend to you, the Board of Commissioners, that we purchase and install one duckbill at one of those locations at a cost of $5,000 for the duckbill, to install that at one location to see how that would work to help us stem some of the tidal flooding. That would be a test case. The other major thing that we discussed again was Rocky Mount and the issue that they have with tidal flooding and street water flooding there. There was a recommendation by Jonathan Hinkle and Bolton and Mink, is an engineering firm. It was a $500,000 solution. We're looking for a less costly solution. So we are currently looking into a solution that would allow for a pond that when the tide was high, it would store the rainwater. And when the tide goes down, you'd have something like a duckbill to let the water out, and that combined with the berm. So our team, the BIS team, voted that we continue to look into that less costly and more easily installed alternative. So we're in process on that.
So would that just be for rainwater, or would it be for flooding as well?
So you would have storage, whether it's a pond or a vault, that stores the rainwater. And if the tide's high, the rainwater can't get out. But as the tide goes down, you could use either a gate valve or a duckbill to let the water out. At the same time, you would build a berm or a sheet pile, bulkhead, to stop the water from coming in.
Okay.
So it would be a simplified rendition of
both
what,
sides of the equation.
yeah, it would be a simplified version of what Jonathan Hinkle and Bolton Mink recommended. So our team voted, yes, let's continue to pursue this. Let's get to the end game and see how much that would cost.
Would that be built this year, do you think, before June 30th?
Before June 30th, I don't think. I think where we would like to get to is a price. And we would like to get to a price so that you could put it in the budget. That's what we're driving to. Okay. All right. So any questions on that so far? All right. So those are the two issues that the Water Management Task Team talked about. And the BIS voted on one vote to go ahead and do one duck bill. The other vote was to continue to pursue this other option. And the water management task team is going to meet again this coming Tuesday. And, let's see, Kyle Brewer is going to come down from Surf City and talk to us a little bit about the stormwater solutions that they've implemented in Surf City. What we want to find out is, how did they get the engineering done? How much did it cost? And where did they get the money from? Because they've made a lot of progress, and you know that if you're going up and down North Anderson, you know that you're not going through flooding all the time. So Kyle's going to come in and talk to us about that. That's next Tuesday, Tuesday the 14th at 10 a.m. Okay. Let's see. Switching gears now to TISPC. We are going to have a meeting with Carson Smith. The primary objective is about oyster leasing, but we're also going to remind him about our concerns to do with making sure Telegraph Inlet Fund gets funded, making sure that we get some coastal storm damage mitigation funds in the budget, and make sure the budgets start to move. So we're going to have that meeting. The oyster lease thing is, we would like to propose a moratorium on additional oyster leases until we understand what the carrying capacity is for oyster leases. And then next Wednesday, we're going to have a conference call to set our legislative agenda because TISPC, including Commissioner John Best, will be going to Washington, D.C. on the 20th through the 23rd to talk about our island-wide issues. That's all I had to report. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Picking up speed on it. Picking up speed on it.
William, before you leave the podium, William, if you don't mind, I want to follow up on just one, question I think that staff needs further direction on, and that was Nixon Avenue. If you recall, some months back, the adjoining property owners at the end of the street had petitioned to the town to, close and abandon that end of that street so that they could include that portion at the end of the street into their, project for a seawall. I think over many months of conversation, the board decided that we wouldn't want to abandon that street, but that we would work with the property owners and potentially build a wall ourselves, a retaining wall, and adjoin it to theirs. We, staff, particularly Tom and myself, have been working with the property owners there on that process, and they're kind of ready to go now. They're working on getting their CAMA permitting and all. But now we've taken a step back. Because of the water management team and the work that they've been doing, this was discussed and was kind of discussed that maybe there wasn't a need for a retaining wall in that section as their assessment there. And I don't know if you want to speak more to that and what
Well,
you
first of
saw.
all, I want to say apology to Christina because she told me I should bring it up.
I'll bring it up for you.
So I wasn't able to dodge that bullet, but. Nixon Avenue is the first place we looked at. And there's good elevation coming down to Nixon. And so it's not a flooding issue per se. It doesn't back up. But it is something that really the town does need to address. If your adjoining neighbors are going to do something that impacts you, and it is a very nice outfall there. But if your neighbors are going to do something that impacts that, you need to take a close look at and see what you can do to tie into that. This is my opinion. Not something the BIS team voted on, but
Correct,
that's
yeah.
my observation.
Yes, as part of the water management team, I know you guys did kind of a deep dive on that. And also, so follow up on that, TI Coastal is also on that water management team. And they spoke in their opinion that they didn't see a real need for it at this time. I questioned if maybe, there's two adjoining walls and then there's kind of a hole in the middle from where the town property was. Would it increase flooding there? They thought the elevation was high enough for that maybe wouldn't be the cause, but they said there would be nothing that would stop us from putting in a wall even afterwards if we saw that might be the case. So, again, I don't know if maybe we just need some direction on whether we want to do a wait and see pattern, or if we really want to continue to work with the property owners on each side and plan on doing a retaining wall at that access in conjunction with the other two property owners. Sorry, that's a lot to throw on you, but.
What I'm hearing is it's a timing issue.
It is, and, it might be a wait and see. This elevation, as William mentioned, it's pretty good there. It's slow, so the encroachment from the sign is probably not gonna be as severe if it were low. And building the walls there, probably the static level is gonna be there regardless if they're all there or not. So, and the outflow is when and carrying water, not backing up, so.
So you could always add it later. Spend, what was it, about 10,000?
About 5 of them.
5,000, or save the 5,000 that she could use to build a duck bill and see if we need that later.
The test on the duck bill.
Yeah.
The ones that we have in town now, they seem to have worked when they were maintained. Now they're more oysters on than, everything else, so.
Exactly right. The one that we've seen has oysters on it, and they would have to be maintained.
So what?
Say wait and see.
Wait and see.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Christina.
That's the date.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we have the cover sheet here and, we'll just kind of summarize it, I guess. During our budget workshop of April the 1st, the Board of Commissioners discussed the need to put some money into the capital improvement project fund to achieve the goal of the water management, testing, and other stormwater tidal flooding projects that arise. So we have here a proposed budget amendment to take 100,000 and put it in the capital improvement projects fund to start this process. We don't know how much it's gonna cost, but we could put 100,000 here. So if it's gonna be the pleasure of the board, whatever's not used, we would just continue to put that into the CIP fund for our upcoming budget. FY 26-27. So there'd be a placeholder there, or the line item would say just that. And of course, we've got a lot of budget things to decide on, so that will be decided a little bit later. But we're asking here tonight to go ahead and move the 100,000 into the capital improvement projects fund so that we can start with the duck build and all that kind of stuff.
I will say with Rocky Mount, we have studied it to the, pools exploding. So I think we have a chance now to remedy part of that. It's not going to be 100%, but it'll be better than what it is. And the cost now, it really depends on what the engineers come back with, is how fast it's going to go. And I think the permitting is an issue, but it's all on public land within the right of way. So we may have a break on that.
And for the audience, this is the 24 fund. This is not the 10 fund for general fund, but this is our 24 fund. This is where we put starting. We've created this to start projects. We have a project right now that's ongoing that we're replacing 10 fire hydrants a year. So there's like $150,000 in there for that. And there'll be other things that we'll be putting into this fund. There's a service, part of your tax dollars is one of the fees that goes into this capital improvement projects fund.
So question, Ms. Connie, I'm reading the last line of it. Says move 100,000 from the general fund to the CIP fund to be able to be used in this fiscal year. If we aren't going to use it in this fiscal year, we're only going to do the 5,000 duck bill. Do we need to do the budget amendment or wait and set aside 100,000 in the upcoming budget to fund the project?
I don't think it's gonna hurt anything for us to go ahead and do the budget amendment tonight for the 100,000. Of course, that's the board's choice. And as we said, we will make sure that whatever is not used, that we would move forward and make it into a budget line item for next year for this process to continue. But that is the pleasure, if you want to change the amount, that's certainly your pleasure.
The second question I had is, and this one I don't understand at all, is the decision on what is done is under BIS, but funding it will not come out of BIS. It'll come out of
That is a
CIP.
board decision also, but right now it's coming out of the capital improvement projects fund unless the staff is instructed differently.
Move that we go forward with the budget amendment as presented.
A motion?
Yes, sir. Motion to.
I would make a motion that we move 5,000 or whatever amounts needed now to cover the duck bill. And include that the commitment is to move money for this first project. Or put it in the budget when we,
Are you meaning this 100,000?
The
Put in the
100,000,
in the proposed budget? for
our
26,
intent is it
27?
will be in the proposed budget.
But it's not in the amendment.
Yeah, and hopefully during that time, y'all can come up with a finite, whatever that number is. If it's 150,000, that's what we need to look at. Maybe it'll only be 50,000, probably not, but. So that would be my recommendation, is to change the amendment to move the 5,000, if you think that'll cover it, Tom.
Duck bill's 5,000.
That's just for the combined duck bill.
Yeah.
What's it gonna take?
I mean,
Put it in.
staff's gonna do it, so.
We're gonna attempt it. Okay.
Okay,
We've not done one before, so it's kind of gonna be a.
there's a YouTube on that, I'm sure. There's on everything.
We do have an extraordinary public works department now, so I'm sure they can figure it out.
So you only want, making sure I understand, you only want $5,000 moved to the capital improvement projects.
Instead of the 100.
But the 100 will be in our budget to go wherever you say it needs to go.
That seems like a very small amount, and that's fine. But if if it goes above that amount, we're gonna have to come back with another budget.
Do 10. Does that cover it, Connie? Ms. Connie?
Well, I think because that's just the actual cost is 5,000, I think we should leave a
Yeah,
little
I
bit
agree.
of wiggle room in there. If that's. your
But not
intent,
90,
just
5. Yeah. So change, we'll make a motion to do a budget amendment for 10,000 to move money from the general fund to the CIP fund to be used for a duck bill and installation.
Do you have a motion? Second. I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Levy. All in favor?
Aye.
It passes. Thank you. Update on public safety building. I'll take that one. Things are progressing nicely. We have worn that building out trying to squeeze every dollar out of it. And, we're close on budget, very close. It's out for formal bidding now. And the contractors are due to have, their bids back to Thomas Construction, pretty soon, and with they coming in the latter part of this month to us. Those bids will be hard line. They're good for the life of the building. At that point, we'll have a lot more information. And the way we're dividing up the cost is we'll both have a base cost and then we'll have add alternates, so we can pull back and forth on different elements of the building and get our pricing within reason or under budget. That's our goal. Once we get those prices, we're gonna be working on them and setting up a presentation for May 6th. We'll have a building presentation for May 6th. We'll continue that meeting to the 11th, so that you're introduced to the building and you can comment that night, but you have another section of time that you can comment verbally or written. so we have better information back and maybe give you some chance to think about it, what's going on. If we're successful at that point, we will probably, go to formal vote and contract on May 13th at our board meeting. The things are moving fast and,
But, you did not mention the time on May sixth will probably be 6 P.M.
6 p.m.
Public hearing, public presentation here about the vote.
Yeah.
And we anticipate that on May the 11th, which is a Monday, in the morning, we will have a board meeting to discuss, and try to get to a conclusion then that we'll vote on May 13th.
Right.
Did I describe that correctly?
Yes.
To mark off the evening, what we say, May 6th?
May 6th.
In the morning of May 11th, on your calendar, if you want to hear us talk about it. But May 11th, probably when we will get you, a decision on what to do. And then vote on that. Maybe we'll need more discussion.
It was done last week, or didn't go on paint colors. And, Sam wanted hot pink. I don't know what he got. It's more of a.
He got them all. So the exterior paint colors picked, the trims picked, they're Sherwin-Williams, it's soft gray. Interior, quick meeting, I thought this could be horrible, and they came in, here are the palettes, and it's like, it was done, they nailed it, it's tasteful.
I think that's because nobody participated except you, man.
No, it's not even Miss Christina did. Yeah. What you're seeing is only the females.
That was my point.
Which was why I was quick.
Okay. Any questions on the building for anyone? Do that. Next, manager or attorney report. Attorney, I guess, first.
Mr. Mayor, town attorney in his office has been actively engaged in being with respect to street dedication matters, acquisition, the conveyance of property that belongs to the town, and associated issues that are going to be subject to closed session.
And
Well, my written report is in the packet, so I won't go over everything, but I think it's important just to make sure that the public is aware that the Army Corps of Engineers is finally going to be removing the old pier and dock. I know.
Going to,
They have already went out for bids and they have awarded the project to a particular contractor. The timing's a little difficult, but they plan on starting the week of April 20th. And it'll take approximately 3 weeks to complete. So that's putting them right at the beginning of May. But they do plan to do all the work by water side, so they won't have to be, coming in and out of the access or the street there. So, we were hoping that they could have it done really before the season. It didn't work out that way, as we know. The wheels of government move slowly, but it is happening. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. And other than that, unless you have any questions for me.
Great. And, Tom, Chiefs, y'all have any comments or anything?
No, Mayor.
Public comments.
Wow.
Good.
You're doing a good job. Please go to the podium.
Hearing none, mayor and commissioner report. Alex. All right.
Michelle, you want to throw that up there? Last meeting, we had a couple public comments, but some of them were intended to be by email. They were intended to be just emails to us versus a public comment for a meeting. And so I asked if Rochelle could redesign the website a little bit. So if you want to just send us an email, that would be the first, the one up from the bottom. And if you're making the public comment that we would get before a meeting, you would click on public comment form. So it's a little different. What happened, I think somebody wanted to write us right away, but it was held for the meeting instead of us getting the email right away. So now if you want us to hear something from you right away, you click the upper one. And if it's for a specific topic for the meeting, you click the lower one. So thank you, Rochelle, for that. There's an old proverb, in the council of many, there is safety. So I really appreciate you guys, your input. And then also turtle season starts May 1st. So get ready for the walkers and making sure the lights are out on the ocean front. And hopefully we'll have a lot of nests this year.
John.
Things feel different this year than they did last year. I just watching the committees work with the board is refreshing. Get a lot of great synergy back and forth from public comments and from committees. It's good to see. And one of those things is if you think about where we are with paid parking, Easter's behind us and the season is here, and we've done a lot of good work together. I'm sure that we'll continue to improve it.
Well, I wasn't gonna say too much tonight. I was just gonna comment on how glad I am to be near the end of the budget season. But Hope just made a comment that I just can't pass by saying something about. Today, at noontime, all of us sitting up here had training on how to be a commissioner. A lot of it is, legal stuff and technical stuff about government and so on. But right at the start, the guy from the Council of Governments down in Wilmington that we're a part of made a comment that something along the line of, I know you guys don't get very much appreciation from the people you serve. And I corrected him on that. I told him that we do, at least I do, and I believe everybody up here gets a lot of appreciation from all of our public for the service on the town council. And it's not a terrible burden on us, but it does take some time and takes a lot of worrying about some things. But I said, well, we do get a lot of good feedback and people seem to appreciate it. And it was a very interesting conversation that followed that. This is a guy who deals with about 40 or more municipalities and therefore boards like this in the 4 counties in southeastern North Carolina. And his comment back was, you guys are lucky because very few council people hear any kind of positive feedback. They don't get appreciated. And that felt pretty good to us that we're one of the few that do seem to feel appreciated. And I just want y'all to know that your feedback does mean a lot to us and helps keep us going. And I don't know if any of the others want to comment on that, but that's what he said.
Your showing up is in and of itself feedback, so thank you. The only other thing I had, and I discussed this with Christina, is I was looking at a problem we had with the overgrown lot, and in the business district in particular, nothing we can do until weeds are 2 feet tall. 2 feet's a lot. And so would staff look and see if you can recommend what would be appropriate in specifically the business district? Because one of the things we've talked about is we really do have a beautiful town. Tom and his staff have done a lot to make it look even better. I think there's still things that have no cost that we could do to make it look better. And that is making trash cans. We're on top of that. Hopefully that'll change soon. But keeping that business district looking nice. So I'll look into that. That's all I have, and hopefully we're going to keep the meetings short so you don't mind coming.
Fine. From the mayor's standpoint, we've got a lot of things getting ready to happen this month and next month. And I think the transfer of, celebration of the Sides Inn is one from the Coastal Land Trust that starts out a little celebration. And then after that, the Secretary of DEQ is coming down to make the transfer or accept the transfer from Coastal Land Trust to the state. I think that's critical. I hope people come out and show this gentleman who we are, because, he has the purse strings. And, I think it's, I'll.
22nd.
22nd, I'll put it.
We'll know the time yet.
Yeah, we don't know the time.
April?
Mhm. So things are moving pretty fast, and so the South End, hallelujah, it's gonna work. Yeah,
That's the day the state won, correct?
Mhm. Other than that, summer's here, buckle up.
One more thing. I just want to say to the staff, y'all have worked your fingers to the bone on this budget. And the process last year, possibly one of the worst things I've ever gone through in my adult life. This year, it has been collaborative. It has been pleasurable. It has been such an efficient, and y'all just do so much. We do get thanked, but y'all set the tone for the culture of this town, and it's very obvious that y'all have made it a great one, so thank you.
On that note, do I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah, yes, that's Harvard. It's a tough job, I know.